You're a big proponent of nines. Phil's a big proponent of nines. What do we need to do as a sport to promote it more? Obviously, we had the World Cup nines before COVID, which seemed to be a good event down under, but obviously we weren't able to capitalise on that.
Well, I hope the reason, just to give the context, the reason I think you got me on here is because Sunday there's a huge event at Victoria Park in Warrington where there's 20 teams, all 12 women's Super League teams. Although you might know a bit more about Castleford and they've asked to go down a division or something.
Well, they're still in Super League because of the confusing nature that there are two divisions in Super League this year. So they're still in it, but in the second division. I don't know if anyone's replaced them in the first tier or not, to be honest. So there's all 12 plus 8 in invitational teams, and they're playing on Victoria Park all day on Sunday, and they're hoping to have hundreds or even thousands of particularly young girls who play rugby league coming along to interact with the players and meet the players. And I'm told from Jodie Cunningham, there's lots of girls who they imitate the hairstyles of their favourite players, and they get on Instagram and swap photos and stuff like that, and they've never met their favourite players. So it's going to be a really special event on Sunday, and and the RFL, I think, probably at the moment with all the things they've got on, they've got limited bandwidth, so they've kindly given me an opportunity to sort of tie in what I've been doing with what's happening on Sunday. So that's why we're kind of, I guess, why you wanted to talk to me this week, and I'm grateful for that. But yeah, I think nines. The thing with nines is it can be, and people said this about women's rugby league as well, it can be everything that the men's game should be, but isn't. It doesn't have to be tied to a specific region. It doesn't have to be tied to a specific demographic. It can be aspirational. It can be all the things that we maybe sometimes wish the men's game was. So, there's a lot of teams from the south. There's, I think the women's game in this country is really focusing at tertiary education and getting into universities and stuff like that, which again is something the men's game took a time doing. So yeah, I think that's why we're excited about it, because it's a clean slate, I think. And it's not actually necessary to be obsessed with, to sit down and watch Auckland Nines games on YouTube and be obsessed with drop goals from in front as conversions, and be obsessed with the actual technical on-field aspect of nines. You can actually think it's a bit of a laugh as a sport, and still see its value, in a more broad way.
I think you're right about it. It can be enjoyable for its own sake, but I think it's a vital development tool for the sport. When you look at certainly the York Nines, which is the first time I came across it, and why I became a fan of it. It was used to invite teams from Scotland, Wales, Ireland, France. I think Paris were there in the first edition of it. It just felt different. It has that festival feel around it. But also, I think when you're talking about developing nations who are wanting to get their very first foot on the ladder, clearly in somewhere like Colombia, where they're only just starting to play rugby league, it's far easier to get a nines team on the pitch and play a festival than it is to have a full 13-a-side game, whether that's men's or women. So I just think we've got an onus to look at it as a different tool to the 13-a-side game. I understand Professor Tony Collins' argument, 13s is good, why do you need a shortened version of the sport? I just think it offers something different. If you want to be in the Commonwealth Games, you can do it with something like nines. We've sort of put a toe in the water on that and not really followed it up. It would be lovely with the Commonwealth Games starting in a few weeks in Birmingham if we had rugby league nines in there. As you said, it wouldn't matter who the medals went to. It would just be an opportunity for people who wouldn't normally come across the sport to see it. And I think nines as well, I don't know if Steve agrees, the format works. Sevens is sort of rugby league basketball. Whoever's in possession at the end wins, because it's just swapping tries for tries. But nines has that defence element attached to it as well as attack. So you get I don't know, a more representative side of what rugby league actually is.
Yeah, but not only that, it's not. Well, there's two things there. As far as what Tony Collins says, to me, I'm 53, right? But I've always had a very short attention span, and like, to me, 90 minutes is too long. I mean, I know it's like watching a movie. Like most people like to watch a long movie. I'd rather watch an episode of Seinfeld. You know what I mean? Like, it's over. I can go do something else. So to me, a game of rugby league, it requires an investment, and we're all a lot more time poor now. And when a game of rugby league is over, it gets reduced to a few a few clips on here, you know, and that's how so many people consume it. So why not have something that's already cut? It's already cut down to highlights reel. You know what I mean? So and the other thing is, it's not just one side of the coin. Is it's great for new players, and it is, but it's also great for new spectators. You know, I don't think it has to be. I don't think it has to actually hold on to any of the kind of or many of the touchstones of the 13-a-side game. I don't think it has to be tied to the places where we play the 13-a-side game. Someone said to me, "Oh, you can't have different tiers, gold, silver, bronze. You know, that's not the rugby league way." It doesn't have to be the rugby league way. That's the whole point. You know, the people who are already sort of nailed on to rugby league, I think some of them will watch nines, but if we just cater it to them, then we're just going to end up with a fraction of the people who already watch rugby league, and there's not enough people who already watch rugby league. So I think we have to, which they did with the cricket in this country, the 100, that is more kind of the philosophy, is to try to get people to come to a party. And once you get them through the gate, it doesn't matter if they watch. They can turn their back on the field for all I care. I mean, I went to the Twickenham Sevens with Gavin Willisey a couple of years ago, and people only sat in their seats when England played. The bands played during the matches, not between the games. They played out the back of the stands, in the bars, between the matches, and people, there was an announcement over the PA, England are playing next against Namibia or something, and people would, I better go and sit in my seat for 20 minutes and watch that. And I'm completely fine with that. I think if rugby league can charge people to go to a party and it goes into rugby league's coffers and it helps develop rugby league players, I don't care if they watch. It doesn't bother me at all.
But much like we saw at Toronto, but people that had no idea what they were seeing at first, and obviously they'd learned as time went on. And now Barrow and Hull KR, two traditional clubs in the heartlands, have taken on that idea that Toronto had, and there's no reason why. If you look at the Rugby Union Sevens, there's no star names there, whatever star names exist in Rugby Union these days. They're not playing; it's specialist players. It's an interesting concept that if we can exploit it somehow to a new audience, which is what we're certainly looking for, it would be fantastic.
The question is how you do it, and I'm just I'm a blind guy in a dark room as far as how you do it. But I'm just stumbling around nonetheless, But and I've tried different ways and kind of worked with different people and tried to figure out, do you do it through broadcast? Do you do it through getting a government to pay to take an event somewhere? Do you how do you try to sell sponsorships? Do you go, sportswear brand, if you come on board, you're interested in sponsoring this many events, then I go to the events and say, there's a central part of this much sponsorship. And the thing is, like, everyone's got and that's the thing in rugby league, is that no one's got any spare time, and everyone's got their own little property, and a lot of people think their own little thing is going to make them rich, or at least their own little thing is going to eventually earn them some money, because they're giving up their time at the moment, they're volunteers. So the last thing they want to do is share that little thing that they think might grow into the thing that finally allows them to keep their partner off their back for wasting all that time they spend on rugby league for no return. They don't want to share it when someone gets... So my kind of the phase I'm going through now, it's not it may not be the final phase, is to just offer to help people. Just say, can I help? Can I help? And introduce people to other people. And, they're Fiji running an event in October where they've got the Tourism Commission on board, and they're inviting teams from Australia and New Zealand to go and play against, qualifiers from Fiji. It's just outside Nandi, and that's the model, right? You get the tourism people on board, and I'm like, well, to the guy from tourism, would you like to sponsor a pool at the London Nines, or would you like to name the man of the match award or person of the match award? You're not supposed to say man of the match at all anymore under any circumstances, are you? Person of the match, at a certain event, that sort of thing, and just to say, well, then so just that's the sort of thing I'm kind of doing now, like really kind of just grassroots, just try to get introduce people to other people and let people know. That's the key thing, right? It all comes back to after all, trying to be all these other things, a merchandiser and a marketer and in the end, it actually comes back you can make the most difference by telling stories. It actually ends up coming back to the skills you learn as a journalist, because you tell someone about something someone else is doing. And that's more likely to lead to a positive outcome than anything you can learn on LinkedIn, you know?